Okay, great. I just want to bring your attention to this, if you like, the fullness of this question here, just to highlight a point for awareness. So when you're reading a question, it's always important to make sure you pick up on everything. This is the thing about tax. Everything is typically useful. Um, you don't typically get red herrings in tax. When I say red herrings, they're not putting numbers in there just to confuse you. Well, they could be, my point is, but you need to at least look at it. You can't just ignore it, and you will decide. You make that decision. So employment income of 13, building society interest of 7.5, and qualifying interest of 100. If you remember, we talked about what qualifying interest was last week. Interest to do with you buying an asset that you're using for work personally, or you're, I don't know, investing in shares well, when I say investing in shares, you want to become a company shareholder or partner or something along those lines, and you've taken out a loan that you have actually taken out and you have actually paid the interest on. So these are actually things that you have actually paid. It's not accrued. So, and then we discussed this idea of, you because you're filling out a self-assessment form, um, you're including non-trading income and all income. But you're also being paid. So the people at the payroll office have already ensured there's been a deduction of 47. So that has to be taken into account. So you create your table as normal. And I think with the table, it's almost impossible to go wrong, because if you are happy with the table, you recognize how you arrive at net income. See, net income is your total income less any reliefs that, like we mentioned. So, for example, interest paid, that's a relief that we deal with first before we have net income, and then it's after net income we deduct personal allowances, and in the order you see here we do this. Now we've taken off personal allowances here, taken off the reliefs. This is the interest on any loans taken out for business use, and then you have this, take off the personal allowance, and then you now have 485 and 7,500. Now again, there is space here, 485, and then in the starting rate of 5,000, there's four. Just doing this in my head, 4515. Yes, 4515 is available at the starting rate. So that's 48 gets taxed 20%. 4515 of this can be a starting rate, as well as the nil rate band of 1,000 at 0%, because it is a basic rate taxpayer, and then the rest gets taxed at 20% as normal. And that's how we deal with that. So once you get the tax liability, you can now deduct, of course, what it is that you have already paid, and therefore the balance becomes your income tax payable. Income tax payable, right? So that's, again, it's just a question of just laying things out clearly. Dividends. Now, so dividends do not, I repeat, dividends do not enjoy this starting rate. No, they don't. But dividends are, everyone is allowed the first £2,000 off their dividends, and then it's just you finding what band is the figure in terms of slices, because this is treated at the end. So we would have done non-savings, then would have done savings, and so dividends tends to be in the higher rate band or the additional rate band, just because the lower bands have been used up by savings and non-savings. And this is given to you, but again, you come to know what these numbers are, just like that. And there you are. So the so basically dividend income is taxed at the top slice, and like I said, the £2,000 is always given to everyone. The £2,000 is always given to everyone. It eats into the band. This is important. It's not like you get the £2,000 and then you're told you continue to have that space in there. No, it eats into the band. It's part of the band. It's taken up. It's at 0%. Think of it as 0%, and then you're carrying on. So here's a nice illustration. Again, the tables work perfectly. Interesting. I was looking for one where they gave you all three lines, so you can start doing all of that together. But here you have a simple scenario where you have employment income of 14 and dividend of 5. So this is an interesting one. Initially, it seems tempting to think, Right, 14 and 5. Okay, I'm going to give the person personal allowance, of course, of 12. So I have 2350 and 4500. Well, it's unfortunate you do not have a starting rate. So even though there seems to be 2650 available, it's not starting ratey typey. You can only just have the first 2 grand off. And then, of course, this is all basic rate, isn't it? And then the rest of that will get taxed. So that will get taxed at 20%, 2000 at 0%, and then the rest will get taxed at 7.5%. And I think it says that you had already made a payment of 600 for PAYE, and that's why you see that getting deducted here, if you like, in that period. Yes, and again, the same sort of principle here. It's the same principle over and over again. Just really being so you have kind of like employment income of 34,250, dividend income of that. This is PA. We'll come back to this. So just deal with it in order. Take off the personal allowance, and then of course it's about bands, right? So that gets taxed at 20%. You're checking to see in that 37,500 what's available. The first 2 goes at 0%, and like I said, it's the balance that gets at 7.5%. So that doesn't somehow solve the problem of eating up the band. And then whatever is left gets taxed at 32.5% because she's now moving into a higher rate band. And there you are. So please practice this TYU2 if you like for homework, because this brings in all 3. These are good questions to work on, please. And yeah, just sit. Well, I'll just find out later on if you did and ask you what your thoughts were. So just another illustration here. We have our friend here, Gordon Lamont, received dividend income of 1,500 and bank interest of this, and also received these sources. So I'm going to go to B, just to show you what B looks like, just as one of them. But again, put your 3 tables in place, have your total column, and then of course utilize your personal allowance. So you have 39, and I can tell you straight away, all of this here, this is a higher rate taxpayer, so they will get 500. So all of this won't be taxed at all because they get 500 starting nil rate band on savings, even though all of this is greater than the 37,500. So all of this will get taxed. The first 37,500 will get taxed at 20%. The next bit, the balance, will get taxed at 40%. All of this will be at 0, right? Because the first 500 for higher rate payers is 0, and also the first 2 grand of all dividend income is at 0. So this is just almost your perfect scenario. None of this will get taxed. When I say none of it gets taxed, all of it gets taxed at 0% in effect. Which I think is an interesting point, So and there you are. Here, well, I can see this figure's already no personal allowance. You're not going to have any because it's too much. We've talked about this. And I think it's always good to still show the examiner that they're not going to get any personal allowance by either stating it clearly that any income over, if you like, technically any income over twice personal allowance, or any income greater than 125,000, right? Because half of 25 is 12,500, which wipes out the personal allowance. Because, well, adjusted net income, you should be careful of it there. And so you have that, and you're literally just working through the scenario. In this scenario, it's unfortunate you're an additional rate. Everything's going to get, well, you will always get the 2 grand off, always, off your dividends. So you won't be paying any tax on your dividends anyway. It's the normal savings income that you will be paying taxation on. So some very lovely TYUs, please, to work on. And please do them. Tax is just full of sitting down and just having a coffee and doing the exercises and getting comfortable with the process. Remember, this qualifying interest will come after, if you like, will be deducted from your total income to find your net income. It's just getting used to the language as well. So yeah, please do that. Do these TYUs and let me know how they went. Okay, great stuff. I'll carry on in the next video. I'm looking at ISAs.